Hello again, my darling students. We're going to talk a bit about literature reviews, and we're going to take the library assignment ideas and we're going to turn them into a literature review. Now, listening to this, you'll get a good idea of what a literature review is, what it covers, and the types of things that you are supposed to include. Now, to begin with, it's basically trying to take a lot of research. For example, if you've been doing research and you have a table full of articles and books that look like this, we have to figure out some way to take all of the information that you've gained, all that knowledge, and turn it into a way that everyone can understand how it affects what you've done. And we take all of the reading, all that background research in communication, and actually in most of the social sciences, and we put it in this literature review so that people understand anything that they need to what has impacted our particular research. So for example, I have a literature review piece here for a project that I did on teen magazines. And if you notice, it will have a number of sources that are in the same paragraph. So I'm going to start this out as I talk about Teen Girls and 17 magazine in particular, and I'm going to look to see what people have written in communication about this subject, Teen Girls and 17 magazine. So first of all, I'm going to have to say something about teen girls. And so here we have in the literature review, we first talk about teens need approval and acceptance, that they often are with a first boyfriend or girlfriend during adolescence. Girls are expected to be trained in effective love. And so we mention these things to kind of talk about how teens and girls in particular, how they think, what kind of communication needs are there, and how they often ask questions. So I move on to my questions that a teen girl might ask. Who am I? What is my role in romance? Who are they? How do romances work? And one of the things that I wanted to answer right away is, what does it matter what a magazine like 17 say, because it's just a stupid magazine? But there have actually been studies that have shown that girls do go to magazines for information. So I have 3 different sources, actually 4, who have looked at this and given their research over, and have articles that have been published saying that teen magazines are important. And so based on those things, my study is going to examine gender roles in teen romances. I'm going to study the elusive male figure and the progression and regression of teen relationships as they are depicted in 17. So what we have here is the beginning of my literature review. I'm telling the reader what has been studied in here and how it works. What does it mean to my particular research? Sometimes I think a visual representation of what a lit review can be helpful. So let's say that you have started gathering your sources. So you have a bunch of articles, maybe a book or 2, and so here, for example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sources. And it's what we do with these sources next that turns it into a literature review. We want to find some common threads with these sources, and we want to be able to write a paragraph that links the sources together. In other words, let me tell you what we don't want. We do not want to have 1 paragraph per source. So I have this source over here, and I do not want to have 1 paragraph describing everything that's in this source, and then my second paragraph go on to this. That's bad. Don't do that. Instead, what I want is to look at these sources and try to find some themes that link them together. Maybe these 3 sources deal with a similar topic, And so I'm going to put these three sources in their own paragraph, and each will be used to discuss that one idea. So, for example, there we go. Now we have themes. I have three themes. And in this case, so I have one, two, these two, creating theme one. I have one, two sources here that create my theme two. And I have one, two, three sources that create theme three. So I'm going to take one or two paragraphs per theme to discuss using all of the pertinent sources in the same paragraph. And that's going to be the basis of my literature review. Now, probably the biggest problem I see with literature reviews is that students mistakenly think that it's an annotated bibliography. The annotated bibliography is what I just told you 2 minutes ago not to do. That's when you would write a paragraph for this source and say this is what the source is, this is what they say, and this is why it's interesting. We're not doing that. So make sure that when you write your literature review, you do not have a paragraph for every source. Link them together into these common themes. After you have the themes, then they all come together to create your literature review. All right, so let's keep talking. What is a literature review? And we'll get out of the visual, and now we'll just talk about it more from a verbal or a word sense. Literature reviews describe, compare, contrast, evaluate a variety of different things. They'll look at the major theories. They'll look at arguments that have been made about this idea. They'll look at the other themes that have come out. They'll look at the methodologies. How have people researched this in the past? What approaches are they taking? Qualitative, quantitative, etc. And are there any controversies that we should know about as readers before we read your research? It will also connect, compare, and contrast all of those things, those arguments, theme, methodologies. They'll do a comparison with the project that you are going to conduct. So you're looking at all those things, the arguments, themes, methodologies, and you're going to talk about them in general in the field, and then you're also going to say what they have to do with your project. How does that help inform your project? So again, the literature review is not an annotated bibliography. It's not a summary of your sources listed one by one. It's not a descriptive summary of the historical background to your topic. The focus. In a lit review, your central focus is examining and evaluating what has been said before on a topic and finding a way to connect that information with your own research. So those are very important ideas. You may also identify things that have not been covered in previous literature. We call this a gap in the literature. So we say, wow, this was a really interesting idea on nonverbal communication, and you've done research and you see that they've researched this with high school males, high school females, with college age females. They've also researched this with senior citizens, male and female, and you look and you can't find anything about, for instance, people in their middle age, and you go, that's a gap in the literature. So I'm going to find out what happens with that age group. So that's a gap in the literature. You may also need to discuss or review those methods that have been used in the literature and how they relate to your chosen method. So let's say that in the past somebody has done a quantitative measure. Their method was to do a survey, let's say, and they surveyed a particular population. They surveyed 289 college freshmen. Now, you will want to do this same idea, But you don't want to stop at freshmen. You also want to survey sophomores, junior, and seniors. So you could discuss the methods and how it's going to pertain to you. Now, for the types of material that you're going to include in a literature review, in general, you want to make sure that they are relevant sources, that they have some level of authority, and that they're current. What this means, okay, relevance. It should contribute to your reader understanding something about your topic. So if you're finding sources that have nothing to do really with what your research project is, then get rid of them. Lit reviews are not for just giving information about things that don't make any sense in relationship to your topic. They have to be targeted. Authority, it should most of the time be something published in a reputable journal. It should have been critically evaluated, been used extensively as a source material, been peer-reviewed, or be from a recognized authority in the area. So this means usually we are not going to put many sources in a lit review that are not from a high-quality journal. So most of your sources should be coming from the database that has strong journals that are used in communication on a regular basis, or could be or should be used. Now, every now and then you could have something else. You could have an editorial in the New York Times if that editorial author is somebody who is well known in the field. Okay, one article like that should be fine, but you do not want editorials to be your entire lit review. That would be a woefully horrible. Okay, so we want to not do that. We want to make sure that most of your sources are scholarly. Currency. It should be recent research or still be influential in the area. In communication, some areas move very quickly and we change from decade to decade in the research and knowing what ideas and what has been shown, published in the areas. But other things have been published from long ago, and they are still useful today. They're considered like the seminal work, the most very important. And when this is the case, then you should go ahead and use these sources. And you could always ask me what they are, but if every article on nonverbal communication contains an article from, from Judith Burgoon, and you are looking at things that her publishing starts 30 years ago, and the articles that you're reading that were just published last year, they're still using her first article from 30 years ago, then yeah, probably it's still influential. It's probably a seminal piece, and you can use it. But what you don't want to do is be lazy and have these really old sources that aren't good. And so looking at other bibliographies can kind of help you know whether or not they're still important. All right, some things that you want to do just in general as we talk lit reviews. Your lit review will probably be about 2 pages long, and you will be evaluating this literature, not just summarizing it. You're going to say, there's a strong argument about this theme, and then you'll talk about the 2-3 sources that deal with it. You will compare and contrast sources to each other rather than writing discrete sections. So again, that means not writing one paragraph about each article or each source. You weave them together. And you want to make sure you connect the literature to your research. There are 5 C's of writing a lit review. And so let's take a look at them. Cite. Make sure that you are citing your sources, and that is a primary focus of this part of a paper. You need to compare. So take these different sources, compare, contrast to each other. Oh, here's the contrast. So compare was that second one. Contrast is this third one. Critique the literature. What do you think is persuasive? What's not persuasive? What has a lot written about it? What doesn't have a lot? What study wasn't very well designed? What do you think works? What didn't work? Connect. connect the literature to your own research. Make us see how these sources have anything to do with you. All right, writing the lit review, sometimes it can be long. I don't want it to be really long for you. I want you to be able to go with this fairly straightforward, but give yourself enough time to get it done. Identify research questions that you need to discover. So before you begin, basically what you're doing in the library assignments is what you need to do as you're looking for sources. You need to identify search terms, databases that are going to be useful. Take a look at some of the sample literature reviews that are in communication. What do they look like? You know what? Google literature review and social science, and you'll come up with tons of samples. Or, do sample lit review, social sciences, and you'll find some. Make sure you have relevant sources, keep a good bibliography, read each of the sources, and evaluate them, organize them into those themes that we mentioned before. Write a mini introduction, a series of paragraphs for each theme, and then a mini conclusion. And you're great, you're done. That's all you got to do, except once you have it down the first time, you can turn it into me, and then I'm going to write all over it, make lots of red marks, and show you all sorts of things that should be changed. This is a good thing. It's okay. Everyone needs to draft and redraft. The first time you write something should not be the last time you touch it. So we're going to learn about redrafting. Then, you know what? You can look at this a little bit more on your own. Look at the PowerPoint. You'll have an introduction, the body of the paper, and you'll have a conclusion. Now, I did not come up with these particular ideas. They came from this great pamphlet that was edited by Trevor Bennett from Edith Cowan University in Australia. So, of course, got to give credit to them. But I also want to, before we completely finish, I do want to show you a little bit of a lit review, and that's not it. That's my email. Go away, email. Go away. And let's see where my lit review went to. Come on here. No. I found it. Okay. This was a lit review that I think I showed you a little bit earlier, at the very beginning of the video, just to kind of explain teen magazines. I'm starting out with my theme of what does adolescence have to do with relationships, and the idea of studying relationships from 17 magazine. So my first theme is adolescence and the need for relationship training, communication training. Then I'm going to get into the area where I talk about that teen magazines do provide a source of advice for teen girls. And then I show, don't do that. Anyways, whoops, just go away. That teen girls use magazines to try to figure out what's normal in life, and that's where I'm just beginning this paragraph before I head on to the next page. So just so you get kind of an idea that I'm going from this kind of theme to theme, topic to topic, and that's what you're going to be doing with your lit review. Okay, you have done a fantastic job if you followed me for this long. And so what you're going to be needing to remember is what is the secret word today. And the secret word today is 17. So if I ask you in a quiz or on a paper about the literature review secret word, it is 17. All right, I'll talk with you guys later. Bye-bye.